Good afternoon. Welcome to City News 24/7. I'm Faiza Amin. Canada's 24th Prime Minister has been sworn in along with his cabinet, and Mark Carney says this is a new government. Glen McGregor has been following developments in Ottawa. Glen Carney laying out some of his biggest priorities as Prime Minister this afternoon.
Yeah, that's right. And using that phrase, Canada's new government, by my count, 4 times in his opening remarks, and then a couple of times again after that, really trying to differentiate this government, this cabinet that was just sworn in from Justin Trudeau's government and his cabinet. And Carney, yes, a much smaller cabinet, 23 ministers, 24 if you include the Prime Minister himself, pretty much basically gender balanced. But Carney's saying that he chose a smaller cabinet because it's going to be more focused on the top issues that matter most to Canadians. And he said those are protecting workers from what he called unjustified trade actions by foreign governments. Of course, he's referring to these tariffs imposed on Canada by the United States and the Trump administration, but also in reference, I think, to the tariffs put in place by the Chinese government in the last couple of days, targeting Canadian agricultural and fisheries exports, mostly in retaliation for our tariffs on Chinese-made electric vehicles. But Carney's saying, though, the other priority, though, in addition to protecting workers, is building up Canada economically, making it more resilient so we don't end up in the same situation so dependent on the United States in the future. Here's what he had to say in his first press conference this morning.
Canada's new government is changing how we work so we can deliver better results faster to all Canadians. We have new ministers with new ideas, ready to respond to new threats and to seize new opportunities. Canada's new government is focused on the things that matter most to Canadians: growing more higher-paying jobs, improving affordability, and making Canada more secure. Canada's new government will be action-oriented, driven by a smaller but highly experienced team made to meet the moment we are in. Our leaner cabinet will focus on 2 priorities in particular. First, protecting Canadian workers and their families in the face of unjustified foreign trade actions. And second, growing this great country by putting more money in Canadians' pockets, by ensuring that government spends less so Canada can invest more, by building millions of homes, by making Canada a superpower in both conventional and clean energies, by creating new trade corridors with reliable partners, and by forging one Canadian economy out of 13. We will relentlessly pursue this positive agenda because Canadians know that negativity isn't strength.
Now, Carney was asked during that press conference about a possible election day. He said this is not the time to discuss this. The story today, he said, pointing over his shoulder to the cabinet ministers behind him, that's the story today. He says that is information that is going to come later, but he still did a little bit of politicking, taking some shots at Pierre Poilievre, not referring to him by name, but as the leader of the opposition. And he said of Poilievre, negativity won't pay the rent, negativity won't bring down the price of groceries, and negativity won't end a trade war. So kind of some pre-election politicking there, Faiza, taking some shots at Pierre Poilievre.
And speaking of the trade war, Carney was also asked about a potential meeting with U.S. President Donald Trump. What was his response there?
Yeah, he says he's looking forward to talking to Donald Trump in his new role as Prime Minister, though said there's nothing been planned yet. He says he's met Trump in the past at G7 and G20 events that Carney would have attended in his role as a central banker. He says, he thinks Trump is a skilled negotiator. He understands his concerns about what he called the scourge of fentanyl, saying this is something that's a concern in Canada, and saying that he's open to a meeting and thinks it's going to come at some time in the future. Right now, though, he's looking forward to a trip to Europe, where he's going to meet with the UK Prime Minister Keir Starmer, as well as French President Emmanuel Macron, trying to boost Canada's relations with Europe as kind of the U.S. proves to be at least an undependable ally. Here's what Carney had to say today about his presumptive meeting at some point with Donald Trump.
Are you not going to speak with President Trump until he cuts out this 51st state talk?
No. I look forward to speaking with President Trump, just to be clear. We respect the United States. We respect President Trump. President Trump is has put some very important issues at the top of his agenda. We understand his agenda. We understand the importance of addressing the scourge of fentanyl, which is a challenge here in Canada as well as the United States. And I would say that the measures that have been put in place in recent weeks in Canada and Mexico, also the United States, means that we are making tremendous progress. I'll speak specifically for against fentanyl. We understand the importance President Trump places on American workers and American jobs. We want him and his administration to understand the importance we put on Canadian workers and Canadian jobs. And we will look for avenues to work together so that both objectives are met.
So some conciliatory language there, maybe kind of extending an olive branch to the Trump administration, hoping to get off on a better foot than Justin Trudeau left off with, the kind of an acrimonious relationship between Trudeau and Trump over the time that they were both in office. Carney hoping that he can be kind of a new face of this. But at the same time, he was asked about Trump's comments about Canada becoming the 51st state. Carney responding in French, saying "C'est fou, it's crazy, not going to happen," and reiterating again, this will never ever happen. That we will remain a sovereign nation as long as he's prime minister. Faiza.
All right, we'll see what comes out in the coming hours and days. Our Glen McGregor in Ottawa for the swearing-in ceremony. Glen, thank you so much.
Thanks.